Congratulations on your decision to learn Microsoft Project. This is one of those programs that after you know it, wow, it makes so many things so much easier than they used to be. And it reduces stress and allows you to take great big projects, you know, the kinds that people put on your desk and say, hey, can you take care of this? That previously would have made you say, okay, I guess, and internally you kind of freak out, and you freak out during the whole time of the project. Instead of that, you can sit down with the software and carefully plan out everything that needs to happen, when it needs to happen, how long it's going to take, if you have any deadlines. You can assign people to work, and Microsoft Project will say, okay, here's your schedule. And the nice thing about it is if something changes, then Project can get in there and say, oh, hey, by the way, in 6 months you're going to miss this deadline coming up, or there's no way you can make that happen with the resources you have available to you. And then you can plan and make sure that everything runs smoothly, instead of wondering, ooh, what am I forgetting about, which is the normal way of doing things. The software does require some careful thinking in the beginning, and you'll probably spend more time planning your projects than you did before. But really, this is a good thing, because the time that you spend planning will be made up many times fold on the back end from not making mistakes and poor time estimates. My name's David Lieberman. I run the e-learning department here at Learn It Anytime, and we use Microsoft Project pretty extensively. It's incredibly helpful in our day-to-day operations and also when we plan bigger projects. So it's really my pleasure to show you how to use Microsoft Project. Just so you know, this class is designed for you to follow along with. It's not just watch it on TV, it's experience it like a real class. So there'll be times where I'll advise you to press pause and go try things yourself, but you can feel free to do that at any time until you feel comfortable. Also, once you get to the point where you feel like you can do something, go ahead and build yourself little mini projects as you go. Now, it's best if you pick something to practice with that's real world. Education studies show really conclusively that if you practice on real world projects, that what you learn sticks much better. However, let me recommend that you don't pick anything very complicated. While you're learning how to use the software, you don't want to have to think too much about the projects that you're working on. So pick something easy, but that's real to you. So maybe this is something you did before already, or something that you've really got down pat. Great. Are you guys ready? Okay, let's go learn Microsoft Project. To get the most out of Microsoft Project, we're going to change a setting that the program comes with by default. You see, the thing is that really the power of this program is you tell it all the things you've got to do and in what order they have to happen in, how long everything takes, and Project will say, okay, then here's your schedule for you. Because on big projects, you often end up with a plan that's way more complicated than you could normally schedule comfortably in your head or even on a piece of paper in a calendar. But for years, people have used Microsoft Project, and they didn't really understand how to use it. They picked it up and said, well, it looks like Excel. And so they used it as a fancy calendar program, to where they'd type in a task and then just set a start and finish date. And so a couple of versions back, the people at Microsoft decided that, okay, well, by default, then, that's the way the program's going to come. Most professionals that use Microsoft Project change it so that the tasks aren't by default manually scheduled. Instead, they're automatically scheduled based on the tasks and durations and relationships between the tasks that you tell Project exist. So we're going to go change that right now in the options. This is something you absolutely want to do as well. If for whatever reason you're not in front of Microsoft Project right now, make a big note, put it on a sticky, stick it to your monitor, do something, because most of the things that we'll do today will rely on this happening a little bit. So here's how it works. We're going to go up to the File tab, and we're going to go down to Options, where all of the options are. After we're there, remember that what we're setting is the way that Microsoft Project schedules the project, right? Which is why it makes sense that we're going to go up to Schedule. After we click Schedule, Here in the middle, you'll see a couple of things going on. First off, you've got this pull down that says scheduling options for this project, and it's got project 1 in there, or all new projects. We'll put it on all new projects so that it changes all of the projects coming out and not just this one we're on now. And underneath that, it says new tasks created. By default, you'll see it says manually scheduled. We're going to change that to auto scheduled. So this is what you'll want to do. Go ahead and pause the video, go up to File, down to Options, click Schedule, and change scheduling options for this project to all new projects, and new tasks created for auto schedule. Go ahead, I'll wait. Okay, now that you've done that, go ahead and hit OK. Now you might note that it said all new projects should be like that. That's why this current project is still set up in the old way, manually scheduled. You can actually see that right down here where it says new tasks manually scheduled. If you want to, you can change this one project by opening that up and choosing auto scheduled. Or you can just start a brand new project by going up to File and clicking New and choosing a blank project. Either way, let's make sure on yours that down in the corner you've got new tasks being auto scheduled, and then we're ready to start building. When looking at Project, you'll probably notice that it looks a little bit like Excel, doesn't it? Microsoft Project actually is based in Excel. And you can do some of the same things in Project that you can do in Excel, so that's nice. But navigating through these cells is pretty easy as well. Once you start putting in tasks, you'll notice that some of these columns are automatically filled in with placeholder information. And there's a graphical side over here that kind of gives you a graphical view of the project. You notice we're starting on Friday, and there's Friday. This graphical side is called the Gantt Chart, and it's a representation of the way that people used to map out projects by hand. There are more columns underneath here, and later we'll learn how to change those columns, but you can move around this little line to reveal or hide columns. A nice thing to keep in mind is that when you print Microsoft Project, it prints the same view that you're looking at right now. So if I get rid of the Gantt chart won't print. Or vice versa, if I only love pretty pictures, I can do something along the lines of that. Make sense? Now up on the top you see the standard ribbon that most Microsoft programs have. You'll notice there is no Home tab. Instead, the Home tab is the Task tab, because primarily we're working on tasks, right? And then the other tabs just sort of make sense. For example, if you're looking to print reports, you'll probably head your way over to the Report tab. If you're changing the view, you've got View. Formatting we'll do later. The Project tab is made specifically for things that you'll set project-wide. For example, if we go to the Project tab, here we'll see information about the project, like when it starts and things like that. And change working time, where we'll go to change project-wide calendar settings. Make sense? Either way, we'll spend most of our time on task. A couple of other little things. Down in the lower right-hand corner, there's a little zoomy tool so you can zoom in for all your zoom needs. You'll notice that what's actually zooming here is the calendar itself, is the Gantt chart, but not the text. To change the text size, you actually change the text size up on the top. So you can zoom in on the Gantt chart. You can get pretty far in or pretty far out. It's up to you. And later we'll explore more view options up in the View tab. Now, one other thing about Microsoft Project to keep in mind, and this is new for the 2016 version, basically the help menu is a lot more helpful. And now it's called Tell Me What You Want to Do. So for example, if I clicked up there and typed print reports, yeah, I see all the different things that I can type. We had view recent reports. We haven't really made any, so you don't have a bunch of things there. Let's decide that I just wanted to go to print instead. So I click it, and it brings me right to it. So one of the really nice things with this is that you don't have to memorize where things are. In fact, memorizing your way through it is kind of a losing game anyway. You can use the new help menu, which they call Tell Me. You can rewatch parts and learn at any time, or remember, Google knows most of these things as well. Now, speaking of Google, sooner or later you'll probably have a question about Microsoft Project that you can't readily answer or find on the web. That's why it's nice to know that you can always come in and search for Microsoft Project Forum to find the online message boards. Now, almost every piece of software has a forum, and you generally have to sign up, but they're all free. And you go ask some question and some nice person comes along and answers you. Project is a pretty deep program, so often people wonder, oh, could I do this or that? And often the answer is yes. That doesn't mean that it's always readily apparent. Being willing to check Google and then ask a question on a forum is really a way you climb into the high-level choices here. Okay, if you guys are feeling ready, let's start making ourselves a project. Okay, now remember, these lessons really are made to be followed along with. It's very difficult to just watch something on the screen and then really be able to do it later. Now you can download the file that we're going to build together in the Resources tab. So if you want to take a deeper look, that's fine. However, looking at a finished file doesn't always help much, but when you build something, now you can really do it. We're going to pick a kind of easy project that maybe everybody can relate to. And because life should be good, why don't we have a party? You've all been to a party that was poorly planned, and you've also been to a party that was very well planned and executed, and so let's make sure that we're well known for throwing great parties. Now, in real life, Microsoft Project is designed for you to get in and put in every task that you're going to do, even if they're tasks that you'll remember. The idea is to build a firm schedule and to think of everything. So it's not uncommon for projects to have 300, 500, 2,000 tasks sometimes. Because we'd all like to learn projects sometime soon, we'll shorten our tasks for brevity. But in real life, you pretty much want to put in every task that you can possibly think of, as long as it's not something super silly, like turn on the computer or close the door. And later, we'll give you guidelines as to how deep do you want to go. Good? So normally the way it works is you put your tasks in chronological order, or at least as best you can, and you break them into phases. You can create the phases later, or at the beginning if you know what they are. Let's go ahead and type. I like to type my phase names in all uppercase letters. That's not really best practice or otherwise, it's just that it's easier for me to see. So I'll have a planning phase. Then I'll hit enter. In the planning phase, we'll have to make the guest list. You don't need to use title case or sentence case, just go ahead and type. And then maybe we'll create the invitations. We'll get a marketing or graphic design team to do that for us. And we've learned the hard way before that we want to proofread the invitations. And then we're good. So next we'll go ahead and do our shopping phase. And as soon as we type the shopping phase, we recognize, oh, I forgot to write anything about mailing the invites. It's not going to be a very fun party if no one comes. So there are a number of different ways that you can insert a task. On the ribbon, you've got a pull-down menu up here for task, and you can insert a task like that. You can also right-click just like you might in Excel, or my favorite way, on the keyboard. You know the insert key on your keyboard up in the upper right-hand corner? If you press the insert key, voila, new task. Nice, isn't it? so let's make sure we mail the invites. In the shopping phase, we'll buy food and drink, and we'll buy decorations. Then let's go ahead and have our party phase. My party phase was most of my 20s, and 30s really. And in the party phase, we will greet our guests, and then we'll have fun. After we have fun, the party will be officially over. Good? Now, here's the thing. What we're effectively doing here is building an outline, just like you might build an outline in Microsoft Word, right? But when you build an outline, you would normally have tasks indented under other tasks, right? Well, you do in Project as well. Here's how it works. You basically highlight the tasks that you want to indent, and then if you look up here on the ribbon, you'll see there's a little arrow pointing in, right? So check it out. Indent. Notice they all popped in, and now Project recognizes planning phase as a phase, what Microsoft Project calls a summary task. You might notice that the Gantt chart changed as well. So I'm going to indent tasks there. And I'll indent these. Now you can have phases within phases, and you can have phases within those phases. You can go pretty deep. There's no real practical limit. For today, just to keep it simple, we're going to keep it like this. But underneath buying food and drink, in real life, there'd be a number of tasks that you need to complete, right? Okay, note that now Project thinks these are all happening on the same day. We'll have to fix that later. And it thinks they're all taking the same amount of time. But what we've done here is the first thing that you do when planning a project. Now, it's important to keep in mind that project managers are not really expected to know how everything works. Really, you're the organization get-it-done person. So as a project manager, you might be doing an awful lot of walking around and having meetings and sitting down with people and saying, okay, what comes next, and what comes next, and what comes next. Please resist the urge to plan out everything all at one time. Generally, when you keep your eye on one task, like just making a big list of tasks, then you can come back and focus on how long those tasks take and who will do those tasks. Focusing on one thing at a time gives your brain a chance to really get in the zone. You know, in the zone? Studies have shown that multitasking really doesn't work. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video. You can leave the screen up so you can see mine. And let's make a list of phases and tasks. Make sure that you indent your tasks as you go. If you want to experiment and make a project on your own, that's a pretty good idea. And let's also do this one because we're going to do some situational things as we go that will fit much better with this project. Pretty easy so far, right? Okay. Okay, so we made a great big list of all the tasks we needed to complete, and we broke them into phases. Once they're broken into phases, you can roll those phases up to get them out of your phase, or you can leave them open if that's the kind of person you are. Just so you know, what we just did normally can take quite a long time, but when you're done, it feels so much better. You've really moved the project forward quite a bit now. Okay, so after we've got our list, then we're going to come back and say, here's how long these things take. Let me ask you a question. Let's say that tomorrow you had to sit down and write a one-page paper all about everything you learned in Microsoft Project. How long do you think it would take you to write that one-page paper? You know, some people type fast, they say 10 minutes. Some people say half an hour. Back when I was in college, it used to take me about an hour per page because I'd go back and check it carefully and freak out about wording. Okay, now think about the way that it really is in the workplace. You know, people come by and bug you, or ask for help, or the email goes ding, or the phone rings. You know, all those little things that happen. Now how long are we talking about to get this one-page paper? It might be all day, right? In fact, it wouldn't be strange at all to say, I'll get that to you by tomorrow. What we're talking about here is the difference between man-hours and duration. Man-hours is the number of hours that people put in. And duration is how long does it take between you've started the task and when you've actually finished the task. You see, people inherently are very bad at estimating time, because most of the time we jump right away to man hours and don't really think about duration. So as a project manager, that little speech that I just gave about, okay, now think about the way it really works around here, where people come by and talk to you and ask you to do things, and the email goes bing, now how long do you think it's going to take? That'll be a speech that you'll become pretty comfortable with giving. And then after people have heard it a bunch of times and you've educated them on how duration works, you'll be able to slow down. Just so you know, the official term for man hours in Microsoft Project is called work. In the normal project nomenclature, man hours are officially referred to as effort. And again, the time between start to finish is duration. So we're going to roll down our duration column here and put in durations for our tasks. Now this part's important. You won't put in a duration for the phases. The phases are basically just categories or intellectual structures. They're not really things that you do. The tasks underneath are the things that you'll do. The phase durations will be automatically calculated based on the duration of the tasks underneath and the order in which they need to happen. Ready to go? Okay, let's do it. So let's say that making the guest list is being done by a committee. So even though there might be just an hour or two of work in there, we're going to give it 3 days to actually happen. Days are the default duration in Microsoft Project because that's how it works. So if you just type 3 and hit enter, it'll say 3 days. And you'll notice the little question mark has gone away because you actually put in an input. If you've ever asked a marketing department or a graphic designer to do something, you know those things take a lot longer than you would think. And they're probably already busy. So let's say that we go talk to the director of marketing and they say, yeah, you better give us 3 weeks to make those. For weeks, you type W. Okay, here's what you get. You've got days, weeks with W, hours with H, minutes are M. Now you can actually do months with MO and years with year, but in general when you ask someone how long something's going to take and they say, oh, 3 weeks, that's just a guess. So in the next section here, we'll talk about what to do when that comes up, but usually it means digging further down. Let's say proofreading the invites takes 3 days, and again, remember that's not sitting down for 3 days straight. It's just give me 3 days to do it. And mailing the invites is going to take half a day. So I'll put 0.5 days. If I'd prefer, I could say 4H for 4 hours. Buying food and drink will give someone half a day to do that. And people will probably be driving all over Earth and ordering things from the internet to buy decorations. So let's give people 3 days. Now we're in our party phase. These times are going to be a little tighter because it's in real time. Let's greet guests for 2 hours. Hopefully everybody will be there then, and we'll have fun for 4 hours. Now the party over is not really a task, it's a moment in time. A moment in time is referred to as a milestone. Other milestones might include the beginning of the project, a contract being signed, first payment coming in, reviews for the project, those types of things. Either way, the way you make a milestone is you tell it how long it takes. And remember, a point in time takes 0 time. To create a milestone, you just put in 0 in duration. And when you hit enter, notice you've got 0 days here, and also a fancy little graphic over in the Gantt chart. Okay, so the most important part here is that duration and man hours are not the same, and that we tend to estimate with man hours. The second most important part is that you don't set durations for the planning phases. If you did, it would let you do it. Look, if I came in here and set 10 days, it would allow you to do it. You might get some graphical representation, see it turned red, and also the task is changed to a manually scheduled task. You can see that over there with the little push pin. To change it back, you can just click the little push pin and change it to auto-scheduled. Okay, so on your project, let's roll down and make it look like this one. And if you haven't made one yet, go ahead and start a little project on your own. Remember to keep it simple. And pick something that's real to you. When you're ready, come back, press play, and we'll move on. Okay, so in real life, sometimes you'll be faced with a task, and when someone asks you how long is that going to take, or you ask a subject matter expert, the real answer is I'm not sure. So for example, a little while ago, I had to, in my personal life, replace a garbage disposal. I figured it would take a couple of hours, but it ended up taking me all day. If instead of just guessing, I stopped to think, well, how long is it going to take me to clear the underneath of the sink? And then how long is it going to take me to take the old garbage disposal out? And then how long is it going to take me to go to Home Depot on a Saturday? And so on, I would have broken the task into smaller, more manageable tasks that I would have been able to estimate good durations for. So when asking yourself, how far should I break down this task, what's officially called decomposing the task, best practice is to break it down until you can accurately and with confidence estimate a duration. Those are the important words, accurate and confidence. You might even use those words when talking to your subject matter experts. If they give you a duration, you can say, okay, are you confident that that's accurate? And if they say, well, that's when you start breaking the task or decomposing the task down further. For example, creating the invites could be broken down into meeting with the team, creating a rough draft, creating revisions, submitting the final, and any final revisions. Make sense? Today we're going to keep it simple, and in the real world, that's how you do it. Now, let's say that when you go and talk to the marketing director about creating the invites, you ask them how long it's going to take. They say, well, it might take us 3 weeks, it might take us a month, maybe 3 days if we really hustle. And you say, well, I am a project manager, and so I need to put in something. And they say, well, put in 3 weeks. Right? And so that's what we've got here. You're probably going to want to mark that as an estimated duration, and you'll want to leave yourself notes as well. Happy project managers are project managers who notate everything. Because in 3 months from now, when somebody comes and asks you, hey, what happened with that? And you don't know, it's you who looks bad, right? So if you're trying to do something fancy on a task, basically a pretty good bet is to double click that task and then look around. So we've got create invites right here. We've already got 3 weeks on it. If I double click and I look around, on the general tab, and actually on the other tabs as well, up in the upper right hand corner you'll have estimated. Do you see where that is? So if I click estimated, I can click OK. And now notice that you've got this little question mark that shows up next to the duration, and you can print reports or filter for estimated tasks. Now remember, we're going to leave ourselves notes as well. So again, it's double click the task for anything fancy, and we'll look around and look at this tab set up for us called notes. Now if I click it, I can leave myself a note. Maybe I'd write something like this. Best practice is generally the date, the title of the note, and the actual note. Now take note that when you're making notes, there isn't a way to set up reminders for yourself. So basically what you'll do is go into Outlook, or whatever other calendar you use to keep track of your normal day-to-day tasks, and set yourself a reminder. When I click OK, look, you have a cute little note. You can roll over it and it'll tell you the note. You can also print a report with notes. Most of the time that you're going to be reading the notes, you'll go to a task, notice that there is a note, and double-click and read the notes. Now, leaving these notes are nice, but sometimes just one task can have lots and lots of tracking that you need to keep track of just to notate where you are on that task. So if you're keeping tighter documentation, or if a task has attached documents like a contract or something like that, you might want to link tasks to an outside document. The way that works, it's pretty easy. You find the task, and then you're going to right-click it. Strangely enough, there is no button on the taskbar to add a link. So I'll give it a right-click, and go down to Hyperlink, which is strangely below my screen right now. You can either click Hyperlink, or you can do Control-K, which is the shortcut for Hyperlink in every Microsoft product. Either way, after you open it up, then you can just browse to the file. I've got a file on my desktop here, a contract. Click OK. Oh, look at the cute little earth and chains. The way that it works is you roll over, you have to wait till you get the little finger there. Give it a click. Sometimes it asks you if it's okay to open. You tell it, yeah, go for it. And here's your attached contract. Now, it is important to note that if you send this project to someone else and they click the link, if it's linked to a file on your desktop, they're not going to be able to open the link. So you might consider putting linked files somewhere on a shared network drive or something like that. So we've done a couple of things here. We double-clicked a task to leave a note, and also to set the duration as estimated, which you can find in the corner of every tab. And we hyperlink to an outside file by either using right-click or Control-K. Now's a good time for you to try those yourself. Go ahead and mark a task as estimated duration, leave a note about it, and while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and link to an external file. Pretty fun, huh? This is the world of project management. Now that we've created an organized task list and entered in durations, it's time to come back and put these tasks into order. As you might notice, right now, Microsoft Project thinks that all of the tasks are starting at the same time. And some of these tasks absolutely may be able to start at the same time. But in real life, that's not how it works. So we'll have to come in and say things like, this task needs to finish before we can begin that task, and so on and so on. So let's make that happen. Here's the way it works. You generally start up at the top of the list, and you say, okay, what's dependent on this task finishing before it can start? So basically, what comes after the task I'm on right now. So we've got make guest list, and we look at the next one, create invites. Do you have to totally finish creating the guest list before you start making the invites? Not really. The design team could be working like crazy on the invites while you're making the guest list, right? So those two tasks aren't dependent on each other. So what I'm going to do is look down the list until I find one that is dependent on make guest list. And if I'm carefully looking down, I found one, because you certainly can't mail the invites until making the guest list is finished, right? Okay, here's how that works then. I'll click make guest list. If they were right next to each other, I could just highlight down, but they're not. So instead, I'll hold Control and go click mail invites. You see I've got them both now? And then up on the ribbon, I've got this cute little link button to link these tasks together. When I click it, you'll see maybe that the dates changed. In fact, the things that are highlighted are things that changed. That's why they highlight. And on the Gantt chart, you'll see that the graphical representation has changed.